am just going to share what little I could put together, and with help from Amy and Tom Davis, about the proposition that the county commissioners are putting forward. And I'm going to read the ballot language. By the way, the ballots are supposed to be sent out today, so you'll all be getting this in the mail. So I thought, rather than making copies of everything, but I will read this to you. So this is called Levy to Support the General Fund Expenses and Services, including but not limited to basic public safety, criminal justice, and other mandated services. So the board, here's the language, the Board of Mason County Commissioners adopted Resolution 45-17 concerning a proposition to increase its regular property tax levy. This proposition would permanently increase its regular property tax levy by 37 cents to a rate of $1.77 per $1,000 of assessed valuation to maintain public safety, criminal justice, and general fund services. The proposition also authorizes the use of the 2018 levy rate as the base for computing levy limitations in succeeding years, as provided by RCW 84.55. And should this proposition be approved, and you have an opportunity to vote yes or no. So there are, obviously a lot of questions that people can raise about this. So I will share with you what limited knowledge I have, and then perhaps others can add.
Michelle, could you speak up to Steve?
Yeah, would it be better if I went up there?
I don't know, just a little louder.
Oh, okay,
Or just
okay.
stand up.
I've never had anybody tell me I was loud enough. That's the first. Okay, so why is Proposition 1 on the ballot? Mason County remains in a sustained long-term financial crisis. By the way, this is drawn from language by the commissioners and Frank Pinter. So these are their words. We tried not to put any spin on this. The cost of providing services exceeds revenues, simply. Additional budget cuts totaling $3.2 million are required to balance the 2018 budget. 2, what is the problem the proposition seeks to solve? To retain the current level of deputies, courts, prosecuting attorneys, and other mandated and essential services. Mandated services are those required by the state and federal law. Essential services are those which are not legally required, but it would be difficult to conduct the county's business without. So that would be things like computer services. So it's hard to imagine the county being able to do that without computers. What cuts have already been made? In July of 2017, July of this year, the county budget was cut by $1.7 million, eliminating 27 full-time positions and 3 seasonal positions. What will the levy increase pay for? Proposition 1 is estimated to provide an additional $3.4 million, which will pay to retain some of the county's services, including public safety, criminal justice, and other mandated and essential services. It will also begin replenishing the county's cash reserves. Without adequate cash reserves, the county will be unable to meet its minimum operating cash requirements. Okay, what will the average homeowner pay? The county estimates that the levy increase provides for an additional 37 cents per $1,000 of assessed valuation on property. The average homeowner will pay about $92.50 per year. It didn't really give information about which property value was selected for that, and I frankly couldn't do the math. 100,000.
It's about 800,000, 800,000.
Yeah,
About 225,000.
okay.
But normally you would be talking about the median value.
Right,
And
right.
this is quite often they're using average.
Yeah. Okay, some may have this question, what about seniors on a fixed income? How would they afford this increase? Senior citizens or disabled persons may qualify for exemptions, and interested people should contact the Mason County Assessor's Office for information about how to apply for that and whether you qualify.
Is that their exact language?
Yeah, that's what they said.
Well, there's a $75,000, you have to be made less than that.
Yeah, it is, it's income based.
I know, I worked there.
Oh,
It's like,
okay.
that's pretty vague, I mean, all these calls, calling, saying, oh, I'll put in a little bit.
Yeah.
We don't know how much of this will be put on the ballot.
Yeah.
What do you mean, what? What do you mean will be
Language.
put on the ballot?
For the voters to decide.
The information that we are giving you right now,
She just read to us what's gonna go on the ballot. When she first started
Right,
out, what would be on the
right,
ballot,
right.
she read to us.
Right, this is just,
these are questions and answers now.
yeah.
We don't know if questions and answers will be on the ballot.
Why are you
Okay,
surprised?
but the other point is that the proposition does not affect those who currently receive exemptions. Okay? Okay, how long will the proposed levy increase last? Basically indefinitely. It's a permanent change. What happens if the ballot issue fails? Over the next 5 years, the county will face projected budget shortfalls exceeding $5 million, and I've heard as much as $6 million. The options will include looking at additional service reductions. Why doesn't Mason County continue to use the cash reserves in the current expense budget to fund the budget gap? Since 2012, the county has spent over $4 million of cash reserves to offset lost revenues. In other words, to fill the gaps.
Since what year?
2012. That's their year. At the end of 2018, the county will have used up all the cash reserves in the current expense fund.
In other words, they'll be insolvent.
What year?
Next year.
Next year, at the end of 2018.
Yeah, but are we mandated to keep a certain amount, a certain percentage in reserves?
I don't know that we're mandated, but it's going on.
The reserve money can be used for an emergency, so we have an earthquake or a, bad fire or something.
Yeah.
That's why, one reason that you need reserve.
Yeah. So how is the levy lift different from the regular property tax? The state law limits the annual property tax increase to 1% per year. So that's the part that we always hear. But the county commission may pass a resolution to the voters. This has to go to the voters, which is why it's on the ballot, to raise the levy rate on the current expense expense portion of the county budget. So this does pertain just to the current expense portion of the budget, not all the rest of those special taxes that you get from schools and fire districts and all those other things. Yeah.
How do they define loss? Is it they spend more than they take in, so?
Lost revenues? Well, they did explain that a little bit. Part of it was what we all experienced as a result of the big recession resulting from 2008. When interest rates went down so much that, still are down. So they couldn't earn anything, basically nothing, on whatever investments they had. So that was one of the reasons.
But are the agencies, are they spending more than the taxes are bringing in? Is that what's happening? Is that what is making this loss, other than just investments?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Well,
I don't think most of the departments have, their budgets haven't, it's not because they're increasing their budgets necessarily. You mean that the different departments are
Yeah.
spending more?
Yeah.
Not all of them, by any stretch.
Do we know what, there was such an emphasis in this language on public safety, which is the sheriff, I presume, and the justice system, which is jails and courts. Do we know what percentage of the budget overall goes to that?
I can figure that out. Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head.
I can figure it out. Like,
It'll take a second probably.
I mean, you hear so much talk about if you spend money on healthcare and housing and social services, all of those public safety costs go down. And so I don't know if you look at Mason County's, if you look at the choices Mason County makes and how it spends its money, whether they're wise. And if we're simply giving them more money to spend on more police and more jails.
instead of preventing those
In,
people.
yeah, that,
And court costs are a lot. It's a picture.
Well,
Well, the language they put out is to reduce certain things. This is what will happen if we have to reduce. And what they've said is further reductions in public safety, diminished capacity in providing public health services, continued reductions in county park maintenance and closing of county parks. They're not putting any money out in the budget for the county parks. It's not in there. Additional reductions or eliminating funding to outside agencies, and continuing to diminish public services and access to those services by further reducing office hours and support services for operating the company. So the costs do keep going up, but the revenues, those costs are outpacing the revenues being brought in.
and I guess my question was more if you look at the overall budget.
Like it's minor, but I went to the county commission last spring, and I said, have you looked into the cost benefit of spraying the roads? It costs that $625, no, I don't remember, honestly, I don't remember how many thousand it costs to spray all of our roads. 65 miles of roads get sprayed with herbicides that are proven to, it causes problems because it kills the grass, which causes the drainage, and it goes right down into the oyster beds and everything along Oakland Bay. And there are people who are very concerned about that, but I basically got brushed off by the commissioners, and I think studying some things like, that's minor, I know, it's minor, but there are some things maybe that need to be analyzed, and maybe they probably do analyze, but I wasn't taken seriously. And the Extension Service and the Mason County Conservation all think it hurts our environment to be spending this money on spraying roads. But yeah, I didn't get any feedback, and I didn't get any satisfaction.
Isn't that because the road department has its own budget
Mhm.
aside from what we're voting on today?
Yeah.
Which is, yeah, it's philosophy, isn't it? What they're doing, they're not getting together.
This is a good opportunity for a commercial, which is to get involved in go to the county commission meetings. And right now, they're considering this budget for next year.
Mm-hmm.
They have until, I believe, the first meeting in December, first week in December, to arrive at a final budget. And so by getting, you can get a copy of the county budget, I believe it's available online, and look at it and see, you know, it's a perfect opportunity for involvement and for sharing ideas. What you do have to get clear if you do that is who has what authority to do what, you know. So my understanding is that the road budget is like separate.
Yeah,
It's not
and,
part of current expense, and so you probably have to take that up with whoever manages the road issues.
well, he was right there in the commission meeting, and he's like the big gun. It's almost like they have the head of the departments there, ready to shoot you down. And then I talked to, is it Mark Wykovich, who writes in the journal about the environment? And he's on the Mason County Conservation Board now. And I told him my concerns, and he said a lot of people care. I care about it, but I never heard from that. To me, he was a pretty big gun that could, you know, give that input to the commission. So it's true, we need to get more involved. We need to get, if you have a concern, you have to have the people with you that have influence.
Does anyone know the history of how the budget became like this? Is Tom, you guys have watched it? I know they have had the ability to raise it 1% per year over the past plus decades of Simon's, right? And I don't think they ever did that, is that
Since 2001.
right? So that it's taking out of the cash reserve instead of increasing the allotted, that they
No,
were legally.
They've been raising it every year.
no, at one point, when we were really quite involved,
Right.
that stopped. They slowed down, and that cash reserve was built back up. It was a healthy cash reserve. So what's happened is that, you know, you can't, we go back to the Great Recession. Of course, you know, property values went down, and there was less revenue coming in. What they refer to in the resolution, they refer back to 2001 with the Initiative 747 and Initiative 695, which occurred in 1999, the car tab. So you had the car tab, which used to provide like 7% of the state revenue. I mean, that's pretty sizable. That was reduced down. They could only charge $30 for car tabs. Okay, so that took a lot of revenue away. Then they capped it, Iman capped it at 1%, that you could only raise the property values 1%. That was one of his initiatives. But to go back and say that
Did
it
they not
was
do that though?
those occurred, yes, it occurred, but to go back and say that's why we are here at this point now, that we need to raise we need to have the levy lifted, to go back to that and say, come on guys, that's 18 years ago. And then to come along here in 2017 and say, because there is a, you know, we had the Great Recession, to come along now and say, well, now we need to raise the property taxes. That seems disingenuous to me. Now, I want to quickly say that as I have looked at this and studied it, which I haven't done a heck of a lot because I haven't been coming to the meetings, but I did go to one meeting with the county commissioners, and it was when they wanted to change from cash basis, they would go from accrual accounting to cash basis. And I just want to know, why are you doing this in July? Why are you doing this in July? Well, when I went to that meeting, this was cooking at that point. They were working on this if they wanted to run this levy lid lift. So I asked them then, what is the root cause? And I want to tell you, I still don't think they understand what the root cause is of this problem. Or they've not accepted that perhaps the cash reserve is being dipped into for ongoing expenses rather than just something that's non-recurring. So they can't answer that. So when I look at this, I go, you know what? Maybe they do need a levy lid lift. But I'm not sure it's this amount. Because when you listen to what, well, we're going to have, what did you say, $6 million shortfall?
Five they said, but I have.
Okay, five million shortfall. This is going to bring in 3.4. And then if you go in, and it's very difficult as a citizen to get information on this. I searched, and I'm not great at Google, but I think I'm pretty good. And I could find this resolution in there after I had searched for some time. But they say in here that property values are going to go up 5 to 10% in Mason County next year.
They are.
Seattle did it.
They are, yes. The sales are crazy. I do the daily work for that, and the sales are crazy, I can tell you. Can I just say, I work at the assessors, and which is the revenue generating, a big revenue generator for the county. I'll understand. They're cutting our 6 clerical down to 3 full-time and 2 people part-time, so 4 total from 6, which means that the work probably won't get done, which I don't know. If we don't do our work, how we fund the other departments in the county, including the sheriffs and the courts and everyone else, because that's where the revenue's coming from. So it's a mess. And our bosses have worked really hard to keep as much as they could. It's mostly, we have no expenses other than salaries. So it's like our budget isn't, it's not because we're spending money, and we're not. And we're down in appraiser too, so.
So
and we're already lean.
Is this, the cut is going to happen even if
Starting
this
January
levy lid
1st.
lift is passed?
We might be able to get one person back, depending. It's all up to the commissioners. They're really being hard-nosed.
Didn't you cut a couple years ago, staff?
Oh, yeah, several years. We finally started coming again. It was like, oh my gosh, all this stuff. We brought in more millions of dollars in new construction and business, business income this year than we have in past years, because it was like, we finally did know. Okay, how long that will last.
Just a question. So according to the material that we got in July of this year,
They could have already, yeah.
yeah,
we all
it was
wanted-
cut by 1.7, so,
Million.
yeah.
Million,
Right,
right.
million.
People were asked to take leave out pay, there
Yeah.
was all kinds of stuff there.
So that was, and they eliminated the 27 full-time positions and 3 seasonal positions. It doesn't really say where
People
those
in our
were.
office full-time.
Some of them they just didn't fill.
Right.
Yeah.
So they
Right.
project the budget for the whole year, but in the middle of the year,
Yeah.
there's a shortfall and they have to cut in order to just get through the year.
Yes. And now they're asking actually to do more, they're like, oh, this isn't part of, yeah, so I don't know what's going to.
In March, they almost did not have enough money to pay their bills. Now, that's what I was told at the meeting I went to. They almost didn't have enough money to pay payroll and cover the bills that month because, the April taxes hadn't rolled in.
I still think my question on the 1%, I don't think they were taking that allotted 1% that they were allowed for years. And that may be because no one wants to raise taxes, the commissioners are allowed to look right back and raise your taxes, but that means we're draining something somewhere because we can't fund.
There were some years that they did not do the 1%. They chose not to. I did not understand what you're saying,
Yeah,
but
they
they
chose
could
not
do
to.
the 1%.
I think so, they.
Where did you find that information about when they took it and when they didn't?
You could go into the budget.
Amy, are you gonna need the whole half hour to do?
No,
it?
I won't. I'll, 20 minutes at the most.
Okay, let's break it at 10 after, so 10
Yeah,
minutes
that's
more
fine.
questions, 10 minutes more.
Thank you for coming, by the way. I'm
Oh,
glad
sure,
you're.
I wish I could come all the time, but I can't get out of work, I just,
Yeah.
I'm taking vacation time. This is what I do my
Well,
vacation
that's
time.
You're like one of us, I'm a fun person.
So what percent is being spent?
Okay, so, by the sheriff's department, this is just a rough calculation, okay? They bring in 4.2% revenue, but they spend 47%. So their expense is 47% of the budget, their revenue is 4.2% of the budget.
Well,
So,
does that include the jail?
yes, that includes the prisoners and the sheriff's department payroll.
Not the courts, right? And
The courts are
separate.
19% of the budget, as far as expenses, so working on the revenue.
Has anyone ever thought about doing a, kind of a study of how many court cases per capita go to trial or don't get settled? Has
Very,
anyone done
very few go to trial.
It's all negotiable.
Very, very few. go to
here
trial.
in Shelton?
Yes, very few.
Very few trials.
But the ones that go are usually pretty expensive.
I know.
Murder trials or.
So they
whatever.
resolve them?
Well, I think that if we had a public defender here, that person could tell us a lot more. That would be an interesting program.
But they're too busy.
Well, their load is way higher.
I don't think. You know, Tony Sheldon is retiring
Yes.
in March, I
April-
think.
April 1st.
1st. She came in and announced that today at the county meeting. And, I was gonna say that, I said that for a reason, I don't know why. But anyway, she was saying, they said, can you wait for 15 minutes to make your announcement? And she said, no, I've got to get back to work, I'm crazy busy today, so I can see where this.
So I want to clarify, Cheryl, excuse me. So nearly 50% of the budget is for criminal justice, and then another 20%, 19 or something, is the courts, right? So that's a 70% of this Mason County, am I saying
It's 66%.
this wrong? The Mason County budget is for courts. These are not marriage licenses that are going on.
Well, let's see, I guess it could be.
That would be
I don't know.
auditors. That would be the auditors on.
Okay, so auditors would be marriage licenses.
Okay, so this is crime, this is safety issues.
These are, is all the sheriff and the courts and juvenile services, prosecutor,
So these are juveniles who
district
are,
court.
are not only juvenile crime, but juvenile safety issues like safety, like neglect and abuse.
I'm not sure probation, juvenile, probation, guardian.
Family court.
Family.
Yeah, family court, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is. So that's all, that's just a
And the
huge
sheriff
part
is
of
always
it.
fighting for more money. He doesn't have enough to transport all these prisoners away to Clown Bay and all the new places.
So we talk about parks, we talk about housing, and it's just a hard number for me to understand how here we can spend 66%
Well, it used to be.
of our budget on this.
Yeah, it used to be that there was this tax, it's a REIT tax. Real estate, excise, something tax. That money that was collected used to go to help out our parks. But then, we're in trouble with that Belfair sewer system that was overbuilt. So, you're losing money there, so money that used to go that would bring some benefit to our community is being siphoned off to take care of.
Brenda, there was just a dang budget transfer today for that specific thing, the one that went to the Belfair, and I think it was like, I'm thinking it was $180,000. But that is just, and it just keeps going on and on and on and
That's a
on.
debt.
We're just like in a spiral.
And I think, the question I have is that future budgets are driven by our current decisions. And is it our value as a community that we spend almost 70% of our money to police and penalize people? We set those values, and that's why I object to the language on about the measure, because it appeals to our fear in saying, this increase is for public safety, and you won't be safe without it. And I find that objectionable. I just find
Absolutely.
it wrong-headed.
It is, those are mandated services though. So the question then may become how we provide those, and how much of those mandated services.
But you could have just said mandated services.
Yeah.
You didn't need to put the public safety there. That's up front. It could have been just mandated services.
That's what it says.
And it's propaganda.
Yeah, the question back here.
Does anyone know if there's a response code?
Question back here, yeah.
Rhoda, Deidre.
No,
Somebody back here.
No,
No,
No.
no.
It's Rhoda.
Okay.
Yeah, I just could tell you a long story about the jail and what it's like and how negative it is. If you ever want details about that, I could elucidate for a long time about the negative atmosphere, and that's something that I think maybe, again, with the environment and the spraying and our jails, other countries try to help people that are there to start thinking positively. Those people in there help each other. They help each other. The county does nothing to make them feel positive about life, about themselves. It's cold, it's got ants, they're not allowed to have salt and pepper, there's no TV, they tore the TVs out because a couple prisoners started to fight over it, and so in June, which is probably okay, because they started reading books more probably, but, I can tell, it's, the philosophy in this county is very negative about the jails and the environment, I feel, but that's, yeah.
We have time for two
Well,
more
we did
questions. Two more
tour,
questions.
well, we did tour the DOC, and so we've got a firsthand idea of how it feels to be in that prison. When the difference though between the women's prison in Purdy and this one that we have here, I think is head and shoulders.
Yeah.
Because they provide so much more in the women's prison than they do at the DOC as far as being able to, the work that they're able to do and how they occupy their time and the programs that are available to the women that are not available.
Oh, yeah, the county.
State, so this is the, yeah.
This is
But
the
that's
So
county.
we have
county,
this,
right?
we have this initiative on our, or this issue on our ballot right now. We really don't know which way to vote, because it's really a complicated issue. But what it sort of boils down to in my mind is priorities for these three commissioners that we elect. Whoever they are, they need their priorities because they have their mandated things and they have discretionary things. So that's why it's so important to elect commissioners that have priorities that align with what it should be.
And budget knowledge.
Okay, is there one more question?
No, I was going to say something tongue in cheek. We need a seven commissioner.
That's right, but we need to increase our tax base. And how do we do that? How are we going to do that? It's not because we don't have jobs. It's because we don't have residential development, which would increase our revenues. And why don't we have residential development? Well, look around the county. What do we have in the county? We have a lot of conservation of timber, right?
Of what?
Timber. The timber.
We have a huge national park.
Huge national
Is
park.
there any progress made on raising the tax on the timber property? Just
No.
even a little bit?
No, there is nothing in the works on
I know it was
excluding, it's actually a tax exemption.
I know, but I mean, for a while, there was maybe a proposal that they raise it just a little bit because it is a huge exemption.
Well,
exemption.
maybe next year in the legislature, keep tuned.
Okay, guys, Brenda has last.
Okay, so when are the meetings on the budget at the county? And what day, we need to have, like, where you can go to get more information.
Just
Okay,
go
so
online, just go online and you'll see.
you can get
when-
more information about the budget, but more
When
information.
when they're gonna be talking about it
Yeah.
and what divisions are gonna be talking.
Okay,
Yeah, they've got it all broken down into certain divisions on certain days and certain times.
and that's online?
Yeah, it's online, it's also down, yeah, it's online.
Okay, and on this ballot measure,
Yeah.
where do you get more information on the ballot measure?
That's a good question. My understanding was that these things that I just read you, these frequently asked questions, were planned to go out with the ballots. It hasn't gone out. So, I don't know. It does give a couple of websites in this material that we got, but you just tried that and found. So the question is, will the average voter take the time or have the time to go exploring around to find this information?
They've got
A reminder.
IT positions.
Reminder, next month, this is all gonna be about the budget, the treasurer, the auditor.
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
treasurer.
but by that time, the election will be
The
over.
election will be over.
Yeah. So, what kind of a session will that be,
Okay, guys.